Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to ed up on the Ed Up Experience podcast, where we make education your business. We are live at Ellucian Live 2025 in Orlando, Florida. The sun is still shining, I believe. I have not been outside in a while, but we are in the afternoon of day one here at eLive. We've had a lot of energy in the building. We had some fire alarms this morning, but some really good keynote sessions. It was fantastic. You've probably noticed I am not Joe Salustio, the co-founder and co-host of the Ed Up Experience. I am Dr. Chris Maloney, Principal Strategic Specialist with Ellucian, and former Associate Vice President and Associate Managing Principal of Consulting at AGB, the Association of Governing Boards. That's a lot of words. I am joined on the couch here by Ed Up Experience co-host and co-founder Elvin Freitas.
Hello.
And I am also joined by a couple of fabulous Ellucian colleagues.
Yes.
Lyquaia Purcell.
Hello, hello.
Senior Director of Digital Transformation, and Natalie Walther, Director of Solutions Marketing. Hi.
Hello. Happy to be here.
And we are here this afternoon to talk about the 2025 Student Voice Report. We're going to dive into what that report is. We'll talk a little bit about last year's iteration of that report. We'll look at findings, and we'll just really have a conversation on whatever we want to have a conversation about.
I like that.
Here we go.
Same.
All right, guys. Well, fill us in. For all the folks out there listening who don't know about the Student Voice Report that Ellucian puts together, give us the rundown.
Okay. You want me to start?
Yeah, it's your idea. Go for it.
All right. Well, we are a student-first company, right? Mm-hmm. So,
Indeed.
hey, no better person to ask what students want than students. So last year in the 2024 report, when we kicked this off, we were really trying to understand what the key barriers to enrollment and retention were for students. And they overwhelmingly told us that it was financial uncertainty. So the majority of them, almost 70% of them, said that financial aid and the process in which it was awarded to them, how clear it was, how confident they felt about whether they saw a funding path to a degree, was really the key decision maker for them and if they were going to pursue higher ed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And beyond that, it was the key driver for them in where they would pursue. So they might have several a couple top choice institutions that they want to go to, but it really came down to who had the most efficient financial aid process and communicated that the best to them. And so the 2024 report really unpacked that in terms of really through the lens of enrollment, but also retention. So that financial uncertainty piece was the number one barrier to enrolling, but also to persisting and
no doubt.
And finishing their degree. Yeah.
When we say students, how many students are we talking about? How many students are we talking to?
So we surveyed, or with the help of EMI, 1,500 students.
Okay.
And really, to build on what Natalie was sharing, it really gave us an incredible opportunity to get insight into an array of students. And we learned a lot about not just that financial uncertainty was a huge barrier for them, but we learned a lot about them. Like, we learned that 54% of them have to choose between paying their bills or paying their college tuition. And so when we think about the modern learner, as we were unpacking that data last year, it was great for us to be able to take that information to institutions, to have financial aid directors take that information to the boardroom, to presidents, to be able to share insights about the current students that they have and also what their wants and needs are. So 1,500 across the U.S., across institutions, very insightful.
We talk a lot in higher ed about data-informed decision-making. We throw that phrasing out a lot, but this is really what we mean is getting real data from the folks who are deep in it or involved, or in this case, students, and then leveraging that data to actually make decisions and maybe do things better, smarter, faster, etc. Sure. So that was 2024. Mm-hmm. What changed in 2025?
Yeah, so this year we wanted to expand upon that. And, it's no secret that there's less traditional students out there for institutions to recruit and market to. And so we wanted to go beyond the traditional student. They were a big piece of this, but we also wanted to get the pulse of the non-traditional student, the opt-out, the ones that said, I'm going to go straight into the workforce after high school. I'm not going to pursue higher ed in any way. Or high school students that, while they're still in high school, they are leaning towards not pursuing higher ed. And then, of course, the stopouts, too. So how can we re-engage them? So we really focused on those three groups for this survey, and the goal was to help higher ed leaders, specifically enrollment leaders, understand where they can pivot their tactics and engage with the modern learner. I mean, the expectations change so often with what resonates with a modern learner today than what it did even a couple years ago.
For sure. Lyquaia, anything you want to add there? Because I want to pull on a thread that was there. I think we heard in the keynote today that idea that we're a little bit out of touch in some ways, whether it's with the speed of service or the way that we serve or even how we understand the student. So I can imagine there's a lot of buzz and interest in this kind of data. How did the 2024 report get picked up? Like, what was the reception to that when it came out?
So this is fresh. And by fresh, I mean March. And so y'all remember March? It was a couple days ago, right? So we just have the highlights today, and so we presented them for the first time this morning, and they were really well received in the session. But do you want to pull on anything?
Yeah. Well, I think. Did you ask about 2024?
Yeah, so let's talk about 2024, how that got picked up maybe in the media or by others. Yeah. But yes, I do want to, Natalie, great job. Yes. We're going to segue back to that in terms of 2025 in just a second. Go ahead.
2024, I know, Natalie, you have the hardcore numbers, but I think it landed in like 33 different publications, so many views.
CNBC, USA Today.
Inside Higher Ed.
Yeah, Inside Higher Ed, NASFA. Yeah, it was, and
all over the internet.
It was, I believe it was like 280 million reach in terms of how it was picked up.
That's million with an M, everybody.
Yeah.
280 million.
Yes. And I would say even more important than that, like getting the feedback from, so financial aid directors, financial aid directors don't always have a seat at the table.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to get that feedback from them that, like, this report, some of them left eLive and took it straight to their provost, and getting a seat at the table for this group that's so impactful for students, I think was one of the best things that came out of the report. It's great to see all the places it landed, but landing on the president's desk because he's trying or she's trying or they're trying to figure out how they are going to make their numbers and how they are going to engage with the new modern learner. I think that's probably the best place it landed, at least for me.
Yeah. Well, as a leader, you don't know what you don't know, right? And so then having this data and having somebody on your campus or in your administration pick up on that and bring that to the table and help drive conversations around what can we do and how does this change strategy, that's really, really important.
Yeah.
All right, Natalie, back to what the path you started to lead us down, which is 2025.
I'm so glad you
okay,
asked.
March just ended. Here it is, early April.
Yeah.
What's going on with the 2025 Student Voice Report and that data?
Yeah, so we just presented the early findings this morning, and surprisingly, there was a high number across really all of the different learners that had a very little knowledge of what a non-degree program is. And so specifically when we look at current students, it was actually the highest was with current students, the ones that are currently enrolled in college. And those are the ones that have, you have the most captive audience with, the low-hanging fruit, and they're in the same hallways as these non-degree programs, but they're just they didn't have any knowledge of them. And so it was interesting to find that. But beyond that, dual enrollment students really stood out as being they came out as being the most likely to engage in non-degree programs, saw the most value in upskilling, were the most likely to become lifelong learners. And so that group, and Lyquaia, you spent a lot of time with that type of dual enrollment students. I don't know if you want to pull on some of the thread of your experiences with that.
So going back really quickly to what Natalie was sharing about students not knowing about non-degree programs. So I've worked in enrollment management. I've also worked in personal and professional development. And so while I felt like my jobs were very similar, like in PPD, I had this portfolio of like courses and certifications that I'm trying to get students, to and through. Obviously in admissions, I'm recruiting students, have relationships with high school counselors. When I showed up at PPD and they trained me and they said, hey, Lyquaia, this is what you need to know. We are not UGA. I worked at UGA's PPD. Okay. We're not UGA. When these students call you, let them know that, they're talking to the wrong person, right? And so it was purposefully siloed. We're in a different building, obviously we had different goals, but we were not a part of that campus. And so when we received the data back from the students saying, hey, I have no idea what this is, it wasn't overly surprising to me. But what was good was that once we explained what non-degree programs were, they overwhelmingly said they saw the value in it. They understood that they wanted to upskill and reskill. We have so many students that are earning while they learn, so it makes sense for these students and learners to get the skills. But to touch on the dual enrollment point, so I was a dual enrolled student, so I'm always cheering for that. And in my current role, I have an opportunity to work with our state partnerships, and I'm certainly seeing an uptick in states as they want to get more students to and through. They understand that starting them earlier is good, right? So that they get those credits and they can get more students into the workforce. And so I think that it was great to see that these students are more engaged. A lot of them were first gen, but also our colleges and universities are going to have more dual enrolled students on their campuses. And so this is an incredible opportunity to be building out engagement, truly timely, relevant engagement plans with these groups of students, maybe even introing some micro-credentialing, some ways for them to upskill and reskill while they are there. And so I think that was the most incredible. Oh, we learned a lot about all the groups, though. I don't want to say the most incredible.
Yeah, let's keep going. Let's dive in a little bit more. Interesting findings, things that you think people are going to pick up on, see value in. Let's keep going.
Sure. Yeah, so I'll just touch on the traditional learner, and like I said, we did include current high school students in this as well. And there's several studies out there that show that if you engage with a freshman or sophomore high school student and don't wait until they're a senior, they're twice as likely to enroll. And so that's one thing that we encourage and charge the group with. We shared this with this morning was if you're waiting until they're a senior to engage, you've really waited too late.
Yeah.
And working with reaching these students when they're a freshman or sophomore, and most dual enrollment programs don't start until you're junior or senior, but you shouldn't wait to start talking to them until then. And so we really encourage them to focus on the freshman and the sophomore as well. And especially in rural areas, there are corporations out there that are going after the freshman and the sophomore because there's a talent shortage. And so you're competing with these corporations who are doing the same thing you could be doing, and they're really don't have as much access as you do because you have a way to partner with them, partner with these high schools, these high school counselors. And so that was just really interesting. And then for stopouts, we got so much great information on stopouts. And with them, we really asked them, what were the key reasons you stopped out in the first place? And then, what would get you to come back? And then if we got you to come back, what would keep you motivated to finish? We don't want them to stop out again.
Right. Don't want to repeat cycles.
Right.
And so for why they stopped out in the first place, it wasn't, so this was surprising because we hear all the time, the value of the degree, the degree is not there. But like that was not
at all.
That was not even in the top 3 reasons
Really?
why they stopped out. So do you want to pull on that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I said this in our presentation, but it's my most hated slide, right? Because it's so disheartening to me. We offer education is supposed to make people's lives better, not to cause all this stress. And the top 3 reasons, and Natalie, keep me honest here. The first one was they stopped out because they have to work and they have to take care of family.
All 3 of them were stress related.
Just stress related.
Yeah, it was all about quality of life being negatively impacted.
The second one was, do you have that? I know the third one was like financial stress. What is
so the first one was just having to balance everything, balancing work, balancing family. And we usually attribute that to the adult student. But I mean,
everybody's working.
Everybody's working.
Yeah.
Everybody's got family.
Yeah.
Everybody's got
stuff going on.
We got to take care. We're not just taking care of ourselves these days. And then number 2 was stress or anxiety, just was too overwhelming. And number 3 was the financial uncertainty piece, which is a stressor in itself. Like money, not having enough money to do anything is always a huge stressor.
Yeah.
So isn't that interesting? But also, well, it's important data, right? Now that we have that data, that's fantastic. And I'm sure there's others who will want to dive more into collecting more data on that. But we hear so often, it's the value of the degree, and there's no value in that. That's been the messaging that's been pitched so long. And this is really like saying, wait a minute. Yeah. I mean, that may be something for some.
It is. So
it
there's
is.
merit to that.
Yeah, and we can unpack that a little more too. But yeah, it wasn't one of the top reasons.
And to, I think, further prove that it's not the value of degree, when we asked them, hey, if someone proactively reached out to you today, would you go back? And they told us yes, overwhelmingly said yes. Now, there were some things that they need in order to come back because they don't understand the transfer process. I think, 10%?
So, yeah, only
understood?
So, I'll back up a little bit. But, so, going back to, so I set out to get this degree program or certificate or degree. And I set out to get it for most of the reasons were to get a good job.
Sure.
To increase my career potential, to get a good job. So we asked them, so one of the top reasons were the stress, but only 10% said I was able to get what I needed without that degree. Like the reason I sat out to get that degree, I was able to accomplish that without the degree. That's why I stopped it. Only 10% said that. So whether that was a promotion or just what they viewed as gainful employment, they were able to obtain that without their degree. So only 10% said that. Like
that's important.
That's
everyone else.
It was very telling.
They understand the need for a credential or a degree to get ahead because of this rapidly changing world that we live in. And truly, they're telling us, stop the stress, remove the barriers. I will come to your institution. And so we need to take that information in. And so I don't know if you have this in front of you now, Natalie, but there were 5 things that the stopouts told us that they needed in order to come back. That was accessible financial aid, flexible learning options. Now, a lot of these students and learners were on-campus students. I think nearly 40% that did stop out, but understanding that they need flexible learning options, cost transparency, so they need to know what they're going to pay.
How much am I really going to pay?
And before I come back to your institution, tell me what's going on here.
Yep. No hidden costs.
No hidden costs. Clear transfer and re-enrollment.
Yep.
Processes, right?
That's huge. And that goes back to what you were talking about earlier, Lyquaia, was so with the stopouts, we asked them, how close were you?
Right.
Like, how close were you to graduating? And only 22% knew.
It's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Be 2 credits.
Which in itself is a little bit of a head scratcher, but then you go, okay, well, if you're disconnected and you're not feeling supported and engaged, like maybe you don't know.
You don't.
And I mean, what if you were only a couple semesters away and you stopped out? Like, I mean, that's huge. And so when we asked them, if your institution reached out to you and said, hey, you're only X credits away from finishing this degree, And we have these scholarships available. Like, would you be interested in coming back? And it was like 60, almost 70% said, yeah, I would be motivated to return if they reached out to me and told me that, because I don't have the time or energy to figure that out on my own.
Right. Because we already know the top 3 issues were stressors, personal life stressors or professional life stressors. What's really interesting about the data is it elevates all these different conversations that have actually been happening for a long time.
Right.
How long have we been talking about making it easier to transfer credits? A while in higher ed, right? And we still haven't figured that out across the board. We still haven't removed all the barriers to that. Some of the transparency around how things work, even the communication around this is where you are in your pursuit of a degree, not knowing that. I mean, we've been having these conversations a long time. So I think having data like this is really critical to elevating those conversations, but also giving you clear ideas as an institution.
Right. Yep.
What do we need to improve? What do we need to fix?
Right.
Where is this data? So it's now just early April. So people that want to dive deeper, because they're going to be interested in this, because there's a lot of decision makers who are trying to deal with enrollment issues, first of all, retention issues, all of that tied to financials, all of it also tied to competitive position, all those things you hear about all the time in higher ed. They're going to want to know, where can I get this, and so I can start to brainstorm. So as of today, or at what point is this available to everybody?
So as of right now, and so Lyquaia will do kind of the road show we did last year, but we'll have a webinar on it coming up this summer, and then it'll also be presented at NASFA. Great. But the white paper will publish in June, so that will be posted on our website. It'll be posted on social, and so it'll be posted pretty publicly.
All right, everybody, you heard that. June. Bookmark June. Look for that white paper.
Wait, you're not going on this road show with me?
Yeah. No, I said you and I.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought she said Lyquaia.
Lyquaia is doing the road show solo this time.
You know we're going to do it together.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we're at eLive, and we're just about to kind of wrap up our time together. Thank you both so much for, first of all, covering what the Student Voice Report is, what it was before, what it is this year. It's really, really important data, and I think it's going to help a lot of our decision makers improve what they do. What else are you excited about at eLive? Or looking forward to? It can be anything.
I mean, we're still early. Like, I know this is day 2, but hey, we still have 2 days left. And I'll say there's still so many great sessions, and part of what we covered in our overview of the Student Voice Report this morning was we did pinpoint several sessions that we recommended folks go to that do show how you can streamline the transfer process, how you can provide clear degree programs and show students exactly where they are on their path. And so there's just a lot of innovation going on. And then tomorrow's keynote is going to be with Mike Wolf, our Chief Product and Technology Officer, where he's going to unpack a lot of this. And so, I'm really excited about tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that's right. I'm really excited. I think where we are going with our solutions will really, truly change the game. And so I'm excited to see it in person. I'm excited for our customers to hear the direction that we're going in, because we are in such a pivotal time. But I feel like we have so much opportunity right now. And so I would say definitely product. Now, I work with systems, so let me just plug this real quick. We have our systems track tomorrow, and one of our sessions will be with students. And so I think for eLive this year, for me, the engagement with students, so the student voice, our panel with students, we had a student panel and executive program. They were like, hey, real quick, quit sending us emails. Just show up where we are. We're not getting anything that you're sending us. So it's really great to hear that, real feedback.
Oh, yeah.
So I think we're going to have some students on Wednesday that will be on main stage. So I'm really excited about our solutions and how our solutions serve students, and then hearing real feedback from students.
Awesome. Yep. Well, Natalie, Lyquaia, thank you both for jumping on here and getting on the mics, putting on the headphones, and sharing your wisdom with everybody. I know a lot of people are going to be looking forward to that report. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, this was fun.
Thank you for having us.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us also. You've just ed-upped